When love begins to demand your dignity, it's no longer love. It's captivity disguised as connection. And the tragedy is, most people don't notice when this shift happens. They confuse being needed with being valued, and they confuse attention with affection. But there comes a point when you must stop begging to be chosen and start remembering who you were before you started shrinking to fit inside someone else's uncertainty. The truth is brutal. If you have to fight for basic respect, the battle was lost long ago. Because love, real love, doesn't demand you lose yourself to keep it alive. The moment you start walking on eggshells to protect someone's comfort, you've already begun betraying your own peace. When this happens, when you feel you're giving more than you're receiving, when you're silencing your truth just to maintain harmony, you must see it for what it is, a signal, not of failure, but of transformation. The universe doesn't take people away to punish you. It removes what keeps you stagnant. It's not loss, it's liberation disguised as heartbreak. You see, most people try to fix others so they don't have to face themselves. They pour everything into trying to make it work, hoping effort will turn chaos into clarity. But relationships built on fear of being alone never last. They only drain. You cannot pour your soul into someone who doesn't even have the capacity to hold it. There comes a time when you have to stop asking why it ended and start asking why you accepted less for so long. That's where power begins. Not when you win someone back, but when you no longer feel the need to. Because strength isn't proven by holding on, it's proven by letting go with purpose. Ebrook walking away is not weakness. It's a declaration that your worth is not negotiable. It's the moment you reclaim your self-respect from the hands of indecision. When you detach, not out of anger but out of understanding, you rise above the emotional noise. Detachment is clarity. It's the ability to love deeply without losing yourself. In the aftermath of heartbreak, silence becomes your greatest ally. People often mistake silence for emptiness, but silence is transformation in progress. It's where you rebuild your foundation. When you no longer rush to explain yourself, to defend your value, you step into real power. The person who walks away with peace has already won. Growth never feels like growth in the beginning. It feels like loss, confusion, loneliness. But those moments are sacred. They're the fire that burns away illusion. Because only through pain do you discover what's real, what's unshakable within you. Pain is not punishment, it's purification. It strips you of everything that's temporary so that only truth remains. And here's the hardest part to accept. Sometimes love ends not because it wasn't real, but because it completed its purpose. Some people come into your life to awaken you, not to accompany you forever. Their role was to teach you what self-respect looks like when it's tested. The end is not rejection, it's redirection. You must stop chasing people who've shown you indifference. Stop begging for validation from those who can't even validate themselves. You are not meant to convince anyone of your value. Your value is not something to be earned, it's something to be realized. The one who truly deserves you will never make you question your worth. Ye broom. So what happens when the love fades? When communication turns to silence and connection turns to distance, that's when you face the truth. Love cannot survive in imbalance. It cannot thrive where one person's peace depends on another's chaos. The healthiest form of love is not attachment, it's respect. And respect begins with self-awareness. When you truly understand your own boundaries, you stop tolerating behavior that diminishes you. You stop waiting for closure, because you realize closure doesn't come from them, it comes from you. It comes the moment you accept reality without resistance. Simple, the lesson is simple but profound. Never chase what pulls away. Let absence do the talking. Because when you evolve, your silence becomes louder than any argument. You no longer need to prove anything. You simply become someone they can no longer reach without rising to meet your new standard. That's what real transformation looks like. It's not about revenge or validation. It's about peace. the kind of peace that comes when you no longer need someone's approval to feel whole. You become unshakable, grounded, self-contained. You stop seeking intensity and start valuing consistency. If this happens, if the love begins to fade, if the connection breaks, don't chase, rise, don't beg, rebuild, because you are not what left you, you are what you became after it did. So stand tall in your silence. Let the pain polish your strength. Let the loss refine your purpose. The end of a relationship is not the end of your worth, it's the beginning of your awakening. You're not losing love, you're gaining freedom. And sometimes that's the most powerful form of love there is, the kind that teaches you to finally choose yourself. That's the silent truth most people refuse to face, because dependency feels like love. At first, it feels like devotion, like passion, like connection. You start believing that needing someone completely is proof of loyalty, but slowly that need becomes a cage. You stop choosing them freely and start clinging out of fear. The love that once felt empowering begins to drain you because you've built your happiness around their presence instead of your own stability. When emotional dependency replaces self-respect, you lose your balance. You start shrinking your opinions to keep the peace. You stay quiet when you should speak. You apologize when you've done nothing wrong. You start walking on eggshells, hoping your silence will prevent rejection. But it never does, because dependency doesn't protect you, it weakens you. It makes you believe you must RN what was supposed to be freely given. In healthy love, two whole people meet to share life, not to complete each other's emptiness. But when dependency takes over, the relationship stops being a partnership and becomes survival. Every text, every tone, every delay becomes an emotional earthquake. You measure your worth by their moods, their validation, their presence. You begin to fade into someone else's approval. That's when decay begins, not suddenly, but quietly. You start losing yourself, one compromise at a time. You give up your boundaries. You trade your peace for temporary reassurance. You justify behavior that once made you uncomfortable. You start accepting half love because you fear losing even that. But what you're really losing is yourself. Hebrew dependency tells you that being alone is unbearable. Self-respect reminds you that being disrespected is worse. The moment you start sacrificing your dignity for connection, you've already set the relationship on a path toward destruction, because no one can truly love you when you don't stand for yourself. The respect you deny yourself becomes the respect they stop giving you. Yeah, bruv, love should never feel like begging. If you find yourself chasing attention, explaining your worth, or proving your loyalty, you are no longer in love. You're in emotional servitude, and that's not love. That's fear wearing affection as a disguise. Real love doesn't demand your submission. It thrives in your strength. E-breath. People often confuse dependency with intimacy. They think closeness means constant reassurance, constant contact, constant validation. But real intimacy requires space. It requires individuality. It requires two people strong enough to be apart without falling apart. Because love is not the merging of two broken halves. It's the meeting of two complete souls. You can't pour yourself into someone and expect not to run dry. When you tie your happiness to their approval, you hand them the power to destroy you. And once they sense your fear of loss, the dynamic shifts. What was once mutual turns manipulative. You start tolerating inconsistency because you're addicted to the moments of warmth that follow the cold. That's not love. It's emotional dependence masquerading as loyalty. But here's the truth most people avoid. No one can save you from that but you. Detachment is not cruelty, it's healing. It's realizing that peace is more important than presence. It's choosing to rebuild your self-worth where it belongs, in your own hands. When you start valuing yourself, your energy changes. You stop begging for attention and start demanding respect, not through words, but through boundaries. Self-respect isn't arrogance, it's alignment. It's knowing what you will and will not tolerate. It's recognizing when the cost of staying outweighs the comfort of familiarity. When you stand firm in your worth, you stop chasing people who drain you. You stop waiting for closure that will never come. You understand that walking awa, why is not losing, it's protecting your power. Rav should never require you to lose your identity. The strongest relationships are built between individuals who can stand alone yet choose to stand together. They don't depend, they connect. They don't demand, they respect. They don't control, they support. If you ever find yourself losing your voice in love, that's your signal. That quiet discomfort, that exhaustion after every argument, that constant anxiety, it's your soul whispering that this isn't love anymore, it's dependency. Listen to it, because once self-respect leaves, affection will soon follow. To reclaim your strength, you must first endure the loneliness that dependency made you fear. You must rebuild your life around your own values, not someone else's validation. You must learn to sit in silence and realize that peace is not absence, it's freedom. When you master that, love no longer becomes a need, it becomes a choice. And that's when you become powerful. Because now you can love without losing yourself. You can give without depletion, you can care without collapsing. You stop clinging and you start flowing. The person who no longer needs anyone to complete them becomes magnetic because they radiate wholeness. That moment when you finally turn away from what drains you is not defeat, it's awakening. Because walking away doesn't mean you stop caring, it means you finally cared enough about yourself to stop being broken in the same place twice. It's not about pride, ego, or revenge. It's about choosing peace over chaos, clarity over confusion, and self-respect over approval. The world teaches you to hold on, to fight harder, to fix what's falling apart. But sometimes strength isn't found in endurance, it's found in release. The ability to walk away is the purest form of courage, because it's easy to stay where you're familiar, even if it hurts. It's easy to repeat the same story and call it loyalty, but true strength comes when you can look at what you once begged for and say, I no longer need this to feel whole. You see, walking away isn't about giving up, it's about growing up. It's the moment you stop waiting for someone else to change and start changing the direction of your own life. You stop expecting closure because you realize closure isn't something someone gives you. It's something you create when you decide to stop reopening old wounds. Heartbreak people will misunderstand your silence. They'll call your distance cold, your detachment selfish, but they won't see the war you fought before you left. The sleepless nights, the endless cycles, the moments you tried harder when you were already empty. Walking away doesn't erase the effort you gave, it honors it. It says, I gave enough. There comes a point when staying becomes more painful than leaving, when you realize that peace isn't found in convincing someone to value you, it's found in remembering your own worth. You can't save what's determined to stay broken. You can't heal in the same place that hurt you. Walking away is not avoidance, it's acceptance. It's the quiet understanding that some chapters must end for your story to move forward. It takes strength to look at something you love and admit, this is no longer right for me. That's not weakness, it's wisdom, because attachment blinds you. It makes you tolerate what your intuition already rejected. It makes you cling to potential instead of truth. But when you walk away, you finally see things as they are, not as you wished them to be. The world often glorifies those who fight for love, but rarely honors those who choose to leave when that fight becomes self-destruction. Walking away requires a strength the world doesn't easily recognize because it's not loud, it's quiet, it's the kind of strength that happens in the silence of your own heart when you decide to stop trying to make sense of chaos and start building peace instead. And here's the truth, when you walk away, you don't lose anyone, you find yourself. You rediscover the parts of you that were buried under constant compromise. You begin to rebuild from a place of wholeness, not fear. You stop chasing validation and start radiating self-assurance. That's what real power looks like. Not control over others, but control over yourself. Yeah, bro, yes, walking away will hurt. It will test you. You'll question whether you did the right thing. You'll miss the familiar, even if it was toxic. But pain doesn't mean you made a mistake. It means you're healing. Growth always demands discomfort. You can't evolve while staying loyal to environments that diminish you. The pain of walking away is temporary. The peace that follows is permanent. In every ending lies a rebirth. The moment you walk away, you create space. Space for clarity, for strength, for better things to enter. What you lose in comfort, you gain in confidence. What you give up in familiarity, you gain in freedom. You begin to understand that walking away is not the end of love. It's the beginning of self-respect. The person who has the courage to walk away holds a power that can't be manipulated. Because when you're willing to lose everything fake, nothing real can be taken from you. That's the kind of confidence that changes your entire energy. You stop chasing, you stop proving, and you start attracting. You don't beg to be chosen anymore. You become the one who chooses. And one day you'll look back and realize that walking away wasn't the hardest thing you did. It was the most necessary, because it taught you what self-worth feels like. It taught you that peace is not earned through others. It's claimed through decisions. You'll realize that losing them didn't break you. It revealed the strength you forgot you had. Walking away is not a story of loss. It's a declaration of freedom. It's the moment your heart and mind align. It's the moment you stop surviving love and start living truth. The power you gain from that choice will echo through every part of your L. You'll set higher standards, demand deeper respect, and refuse to settle for half-hearted anything. So if you ever find yourself standing at that crossroads, torn between staying for comfort and leaving for growth, choose yourself, because the truth is simple. Staying small for someone else's comfort will always cost you your peace, but walking away, that's the moment you take your power back. 'Cause it's not poetry, it's truth carved by experience. Because love, real love, breathes in the space of mutual respect. The moment one person begins to shrink, to silence their needs, to trade their dignity for approval, love starts dying quietly beneath the surface. It doesn't vanish all at once. It decays piece by piece, hidden beneath the illusions of loyalty and care. When self-worth is surrendered, the relationship becomes a transaction, not a connection. You start giving more to keep the peace, apologizing for things that aren't your fault, and accepting half effort as love. You convince yourself that if you love harder, they'll see your value. But that's the trap, because love built on sacrifice of self is not love at all. It's dependency disguised as devotion. Love cannot survive in imbalance. It needs equality, not in possessions, but in power. It needs both hearts standing tall, not one bending low just to be seen. The moment you trade your voice for closeness, your soul begins to suffocate. You stop speaking your truth because you fear distance. You start over-explaining your worth because you fear being misunderstood. You try to earn what should have been freely given: respect, attention, commitment. But let me tell you this, love that costs your self-respect is too expensive to keep. Because when you betray yourself to hold on to someone, you're not saving the relationship, you're slowly destroying it. Love can't grow in a place where one person keeps bleeding to keep the other comfortable. It can't thrive where boundaries are broken and one heart becomes the caretaker of another's immaturity. The most dangerous illusion is believing that sacrificing yourself will make someone love you more. It won't. It only teaches them that your worth is negotiable, that they can take more than they give, that you'll stay even when you're hurting. And the moment someone learns that lesson, the dynamic changes forever. Respect fades, effort fades. Love begins to rot beneath entitlement and control. You deserve a love that mirrors your strength, not one that feeds on your weakness. You deserve someone who adds peace, not pressure. Someone who listens to understand, not just to respond. But you can't attract that kind of love until you decide that your worth is non-negotiable. Because love is not about how much you give. It's about how much of yourself you refuse to lose. Think about it. Every time you stayed silent to avoid an argument, every time you accepted inconsistency because you feared being alone, every time you chased someone who made you feel evil, you weren't showing love, you were abandoning yourself. And the truth is, no amount of love can fill the emptiness that comes from self-betrayal. Healthy love starts with wholeness, not need. It starts when you stop begging for validation and start embodying it. When you know your worth, love becomes a choice, not a lifeline. You no longer settle for crumbs because you know you deserve the feast. You no longer chase attention because your peace matters more than temporary connection. Love cannot survive where self-worth is sacrificed, because self-worth is the foundation of love. Without it, love collapses under the weight of insecurity and imbalance. You can't build a lasting relationship on fear. You can't build passion on pity. You can't build connection on compromise of character. When you hold your worth, you set the tone for how others treat you. You teach them your value, not through words, but through standards. Boundaries are not barriers. They're instructions on how to love you properly. And when someone truly loves you, they won't ask you to lower them. They'll rise to meet them. Sometimes love ends not because the feeling is gone, but because the respect is. And once respect dies, love becomes survival. But walking away from a love that no longer honors your worth is not failure, it's freedom. Because love that demands your self-destruction is not love. It's emotional imprisonment. So the question isn't, do they love you? The real question is, do you love yourself enough to stop tolerating what diminishes you? Because the love you seek will never arrive while you keep making excuses for disrespect. You must first create the space for it by choosing yourself. The world will tell you to compromise, to be patient, to understand. But understand this, there's a difference between compromise and surrender. Compromise keeps balance, surrender destroys identity. Love that asks you to erase yourself is not love. It's control dressed as care. Ibri, when you honor your worth, love evolves. It becomes calmer, deeper, freer. You stop fearing loss because what's meant for you will never require self-betrayal. You stop chasing intensity because peace feels better. You stop begging to be seen because you finally see yourself. So never dim your light to keep someone comfortable in their shadow. Never silence your truth to protect their ego. Never sacrifice your dignity just to stay close, because the moment you trade self-worth for attachment, you lose both. Love cannot survive where self-worth is sacrificed. But when love and self-worth coexist, they create something extraordinary. Two complete souls choosing each other, not out of need, but out of respect. Detachment isn't the absence of emotion. It's the mastery of it. It's when your heart still feels deeply, but your mind no longer allows those feelings to destroy your peace. It's the moment you stop reacting and start observing. You stop trying to control outcomes and start accepting reality for what it is, not what you wish it to be. Most people confuse detachment with distance. They think it means shutting down, going numb, or pretending they don't care. But real detachment doesn't build walls, it clears fog. It's not emotional coldness, it's emotional intelligence. It's the freedom that comes when you no longer allow your happiness to be dictated by someone else's inconsistency. When you reach detachment, you no longer chase answers that don't exist. You stop replaying conversations in your head. Stop trying to decode mixed signals. Stop waiting for closure from someone who doesn't even understand themselves. You realize that peace doesn't come from fixing everything. It comes from letting things be what they are. Detachment isn't giving up, it's growing up. It's the understanding that love doesn't require obsession, that connection doesn't require control, that caring doesn't require chaos. It's standing in the storm and saying, "This no longer shakes me." You feel the emotion, but you don't drown in it. You acknowledge the pain, but you don't let it define your worth. You see, attachment often comes from fear, the fear of losing, the fear of being alone, the fear of not being enough. It ties your peace to circumstances you can't control. But detachment breaks that chain. It reminds you that your value doesn't depend on outcomes, that love is not proven by how tightly you hold on, but by how freely you can let go.
When you are attached, you suffer from expectations. You expect them to act a certain way, to give what you give, to feel what you feel. And when they don't, you collapse. But when you're detached, you still care, but without conditions.
You love without losing yourself. You invest without attachment to results. You learn to say, "I gave my best," and that's enough.
Bro, that's the clarity detachment brings, the ability
To see things as they are, not as your emotions paint them to be. Because emotions are powerful, but they can be misleading. They make temporary people feel permanent. They make red flags look like passion. They make chaos look like intensity. But detachment brings truth. It clears the illusions love can create. Detachment is power. It's when your self-worth is no longer negotiable. It's when silence becomes your response to disrespect. It's when you stop explaining yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. It's when you realize that not everything needs to be fixed, answered, or pursued. Some things are meant to end, and your strength lies in accepting that without resentment.
Bro, it doesn't mean you stop feeling, you still feel deeply, but
no longer let those feelings control your decisions. You can love someone and still recognize they're not good for your growth. You can forgive and still walk away. You can care without clinging. That's maturity. That's clarity. Detachment teaches you that peace is not found in control, it's found in surrender. You stop fighting reality and start flowing with it. You realize that people come and go, seasons change, and not everything broken was meant to be repaired. Some things are meant to teach you what never to settle for again. Bro, you start noticing the difference between effort and energy. Effort is external, it's what you give. Energy is internal, it's how it feels. When love starts feeling heavy, forced, or fearful, detachment is the medicine. It's the act of stepping back, breathing, and saying, "This no longer aligns with my peace." You no longer attachment, you no longer chase what runs or cling to what fades. You trust that what's meant for you will meet you halfway, and what isn't will naturally drift away. You stop fighting to prove your worth and start embodying it. That's where power lives, not in control, but in composure. Detachment isn't about walls, it's about windows. It lets light in, it lets truth through, it gives you the perspective to see that your emotions don't define your reality, your awareness does. When you're detached, rejection doesn't destroy you, it redirects you. Silence doesn't scare you, it strengthens you. Distance doesn't break you, it builds you. And the beauty of detachment is that it brings everything real closer to you. Because when you stop forcing, you start attracting. When you stop needing, you start choosing. When you stop begging for clarity, it starts arriving. People feel your energy shift. They sense that you no longer crave validation. You've become grounded, calm, and magnetic. So remember this, detachment is not indifference. It's clarity. It's the art of staying kind in chaos, peaceful in pain, and still in uncertainty. It's the strength to walk through love without losing yourself. Detachment is the highest form of love because it's freedom wrapped in understanding. You love without ownership. You give without demand. You release without bitterness. And when you reach that point, when you can look at someone and say, "I still care, but I choose peace," that's when you've truly mastered yourself. That's not indifference, that's wisdom, because in the end, detachment doesn't make you colder, it makes you clearer. And clarity is what keeps your soul untouchable, even in a world that tries to shake it.